Sometimes a NASCAR race weekend does not even wait for the green flag to bring the drama. You know those weekends where everything seems normal when you wake up, but by the time you get to the garage area, something big has already happened. Teams are scrambling around, crew members are talking in hushed voices, and fans watching from home are sitting there completely confused, trying to figure out what went wrong before the race even had a chance to begin. That is exactly the kind of weekend we are talking about right now. Heading into the race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the NASCAR Cup Series garage was already dealing with not one, but two major stories that had everybody talking. The first story involves multiple teams getting hit with penalties before a single lap was even run. The second story involves one of the most well-known drivers in the sport stepping forward and making it very clear that he was not happy about what happened to his team. And if you've been following NASCAR for any amount of time, you already understand that situations like this do not just create drama, they can completely change the direction of an entire race weekend. Strategy gets thrown out the window, teams lose important people from their crew, and the momentum that a team spent weeks building can disappear before the engines even fire up. So in this video, we're going to break down both of these stories in full detail. We're going to talk about what actually happened inside the garage at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, why the penalties were handed out, which teams were affected, and why this whole situation could end up mattering a lot more than people might think once the race actually gets going. Before we get into all of that, if you are a real NASCAR fan and you enjoy breaking down everything that happens in this sport every single week, please take a second right now to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This channel is brand new, and the goal we are working toward right now is reaching our first 10,000 subscribers. We are trying to build a community of real NASCAR fans, people who actually follow this sport closely, who care about what happens on and off the track, and who want honest and straightforward coverage of everything going on in the NASCAR Cup Series. If that sounds like you, hit that subscribe button right now and join us. Every single subscriber helps this channel grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you who is watching and supporting this channel from the very beginning. Now, let us get into the first big story coming out of Las Vegas, because this one started long before the race ever began. NASCAR officially announced that 4 NASCAR Cup Series teams failed pre-race inspection multiple times on Saturday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Because those teams kept failing inspection, NASCAR decided to step in and issue penalties before the Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube even had a chance to get underway. This is the kind of thing that sets the entire tone for a race weekend in ways that fans do not always fully appreciate from the outside looking in. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what pre-race inspection actually is and why NASCAR takes it so seriously. Every single week, before any car is allowed to compete in a NASCAR Cup Series race, it has to go through a detailed inspection process. NASCAR officials go over every part of the car to make sure it meets the technical rules and specifications that the series has set. Teams know these rules inside and out. They have engineers and crew members whose entire job is to make sure the car is built correctly and prepared properly before it ever goes through that inspection line. But here's the thing, teams are always trying to find every small edge they can find, every tiny advantage that might help them go a little faster or handle a little better on race day. That's just the nature of competition in NASCAR. And NASCAR's job is to make sure that the search for those advantages never crosses the line into territory that breaks the rules. When a car goes through inspection and fails, it usually gets sent back so the team can make adjustments and try again. But when a car keeps failing inspection over and over, that tells NASCAR officials that something more serious might be going on. That is exactly the situation that played out at Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend, and NASCAR responded quickly and firmly. After multiple inspection failures from 4 different teams, NASCAR officials made the decision to eject the car chiefs from each of those teams before the race even started. The 4 teams that were hit with these penalties were the number 2 Penske Ford driven by Austin Cindric, the number 10 Colleague Racing Chevrolet driven by Ty Dillon, the number 16 Colleague Racing Chevrolet driven by A.J. Allmendinger, and the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet driven by William Byron. 4 teams, 4 car chiefs ejected, all before a single lap was completed. The car chiefs who were removed from the event were Eric Bailey from the number 2 Penske Ford, Troy Langford Jr. from the number 10 Colleague Racing Chevrolet, Jaron Antley from the number 16 Colleague Racing Chevrolet, and Jacob Bowman from the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. Each of those individuals was not allowed to participate in the race weekend going forward. Now, when people hear the word penalty in NASCAR, they sometimes think it is not that big of a deal. But losing a car chief before a race is actually a significant blow to any team. The car chief is one of the most important people in the entire operation. This is the person who oversees the physical preparation of the race car from top to bottom. They are responsible for making sure everything on the car is built correctly, that every component is where it should be, and that the car is ready to perform at the highest possible level when it hits the track. The car chief is also a key part of the communication chain during the race weekend itself, working closely with the crew chief, the engineers, and the rest of the team to make adjustments and solve problems as they come up. When you take that person out of the equation on the morning of the race, you are not just removing one individual, you are removing a huge piece of the team's ability to function smoothly, especially when things start going sideways during the race and quick decisions need to be made. But the ejection of the car chiefs was not the only penalty that NASCAR handed down. On top of losing their car chiefs, NASCAR also ruled that all 4 drivers would lose their pit stall selection for the race. This second penalty might actually be even more impactful in terms of how it affects what happens on race day. If you watch NASCAR on a regular basis, you already know how much pit stall position matters during a race. A good pit stall at Las Vegas Motor Speedway allows a driver and his team to get on and off pit road as cleanly and efficiently as possible. It helps avoid traffic when multiple cars are pitting at the same time. It can be the difference between a smooth pit stop that gains positions and a messy situation that costs a team everything they worked for during a long green flag run. Losing the ability to choose where your pit stall is located takes away one more tool that a team would normally have available to them on race day. The 4 drivers who lost their pit stall selection were Austin Cindric, Ty Dillon, A.J. Allmendinger, and William Byron. And speaking of William Byron, that is where the second big story of this weekend comes in, because Byron did not stay quiet after the penalties were announced. William Byron is not just any driver who happened to be caught up in this inspection situation. He is a driver with a history at Las Vegas Motor Speedway specifically. Byron won at this very track back in 2023, which means he knows what it takes to run well and compete for a victory here. So when you talk about a driver heading into a race weekend with penalties hanging over his head, extra disadvantages in pit strategy, and a key crew member missing from his team, it means something a little extra when that driver has already shown he has the speed and the ability to win at this particular place. After the penalties involving the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports team were made official, Byron came out and spoke publicly about how he was feeling. He did not try to sugarcoat things or pretend that everything was fine. He was straightforward about the fact that losing a key team member before the race even begins is a genuinely difficult situation to deal with. According to what Byron said after the penalties were announced, he acknowledged that NASCAR has the authority to enforce its rules and that he respects that process, but at the same time he made it very clear that the situation was frustrating for him and for his team. Byron talked about how much work goes into preparing for a race weekend. He pointed out that the team spends enormous amounts of time and energy getting everything ready, that crew members pour everything they have into making the car as good as it can possibly be, and that when something like this happens before you even have a chance to get on the track, it creates real challenges that the team now has to work through. He made it clear that losing a key team member for the weekend absolutely makes things harder on everyone involved. That kind of honesty from a driver is something that fans genuinely respect. It is easy for drivers and team members to give the standard professional answer where they say everything is fine and they are focused on the race. But Byron chose to be direct about the frustration his team was feeling. And that reaction makes complete sense when you think about the situation from the team's perspective. These are not people who are cutting corners because they do not care about doing things the right way. These are teams that spend months and months preparing for a season, working through every detail of every car, trying to be as competitive as possible. When a penalty like this comes down before the race even starts, it stings in a very real way. The inspection penalties were not limited to Byron and the number 24 team alone, of course. The same situation played out for Austin Cindric in the number 2 Penske Ford, for Ty Dillon in the number 10 Kaulig Racing Chevrolet, and for A.J. Allmendinger in the number 16 Kaulig Racing Chevrolet. Because multiple teams across different organizations were all hit with similar penalties at the same time, the story quickly became a major topic of conversation throughout the entire garage area at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Teams that were not even directly involved started paying attention and talking about what had happened. Discussions about inspection standards, about where the line is drawn, and about whether the penalties handed down were the right call started happening all over the garage. Even with all of that frustration and uncertainty swirling around, Byron also made it clear that his team was not going to let the situation derail them completely. He said that the team would regroup and do what they always do, which is go out and race. That attitude really does reflect the mentality that most successful NASCAR drivers carry with them. No matter what happens during a race weekend before the green flag waves, once that race starts, the only thing that matters is performance on the track. You cannot go back and undo the penalties. You cannot get your car chief back for that race. What you can do is make the best possible decisions during the race itself and try to take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. For the number 24 Hendrick Motorsports team, the goal heading into the race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway was simple despite everything that had happened. Overcome the early setbacks, manage the strategic disadvantages as well as possible, and find a way to still be competitive when it matters most late in the race. When you step back and look at this entire situation from a wider view, it really is a reminder of just how intense NASCAR competition actually is at this level. 4 teams were already dealing with penalties, missing crew members, and strategic disadvantages before the race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway even had a chance to begin. Drivers like Austin Cindric, Ty Dillon, A.J. Allmendinger, and William Byron all had to process those setbacks, adjust their mindset, and still find a way to compete against dozens of other cars whose teams were starting the weekend without any of those problems hanging over them. For Byron specifically, the situation adds an extra layer of storyline to the race weekend. He has already proven that he knows how to win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He has the talent, his team has the capability, but now those abilities are being tested in a different way, not just against the other competitors on the track, but against the circumstances and the disadvantages that were handed to them before the race ever started. In NASCAR, that kind of challenge is not unusual. Things go wrong all the time in this sport. Cars get damaged, mechanical problems pop up, penalties happen. The teams and drivers who find ways to push through those moments and still perform at a high level are the ones that end up competing for championships at the end of the season. Whether these 4 teams can recover from these pre-race penalties and still have a strong showing at Las Vegas remains to be seen. But what is absolutely clear is that the story of this race weekend did not begin when the green flag dropped. It began long before that, in the garage area, during inspection, when NASCAR officials made a series of decisions that immediately changed the landscape of the entire race weekend for 4 different teams. And in NASCAR, that is just how it goes sometimes. The drama does not wait for the race to start. Sometimes it arrives early, and everyone involved just has to figure out how to deal with it. That is the full breakdown of both of these big stories coming out of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now I want to hear what you think. Do you believe NASCAR made the right call by handing out these inspection penalties? Or do you think the punishment was too severe for what happened? Drop your opinion in the comment section below, because NASCAR fans always have strong feelings about situations like this, and every perspective is worth hearing. And if you got value out of this video and you want to keep up with everything happening in the NASCAR Cup Series every single week, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel right now. NASCAR Nation Report is a brand new channel, and we are working hard to grow a real community of dedicated NASCAR fans who want honest, straightforward coverage of this sport. The goal is 10,000 subscribers, and every single person who subscribes right now is a huge part of making that happen. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next NASCAR update.